Okay, our next speaker is Sandra Thomas. Sandra's originally from Panama, but was raised in Brooklyn, New York. She's been in the Dallas Fort Worth area for the last,
Since 1985.
okay. Uh, Her family consists of,
I have 3 living sons, 14 grandchildren, and 4 great-grands.
Unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
her daytime hours are filled.
I work as a substitute school nurse. I retired in 2016 from Fort Worth Independent School District.
And for fun, she likes to.
I love to read. I love worship. I love to go to the movies. I love to spend time with my little JJ, who is my favorite grandchild.
Sorry for the others. Help me welcome Sandra.
Thank you very much. An empty well, an empty heart. My sister and I were abandoned at the side of the road by our father.
Hmm.
I was 12 years old and she was 15. Only the road was the JFK airport in New York City.
Oh.
It was a very lonely, stressful feeling. After 12 hours, we saw a familiar face, and that was my mother. My mother did not know that we were on our way to New York City. My dad sent a letter, which takes, if you know anything about international, the mail does not arrive on a timely manner. So it so happens that we arrived at the airport at 11:30 that morning, and we saw our mother at 11:30 that night. Let me ask a question. How many of you have ever felt abandoned, lonely, and angry? Growing up without a father figure most of my life left me on trusting hunger for acceptance and love. Therefore, that hunger drove me from my teenage years to look for love in all the wrong places. I was promiscuous because I was in search of love, never found it. Graduated from high school, got married at 19 because, again, I was in search of love. I knew the young man because he was also from Panama. So we married. He's an ex-military. Did not realize that from the Vietnam War, he experienced a lot of issues. We got married, and somewhere 7 years within our marriage came to the realization that he was involved in drugs. By then we had one child. My child was 2 years old, or our child was 2 years old. I was in nursing school, and it was a choice I had to make. I had 6 months left to graduate from nursing school. I guess because of pride, or because I was not raised to seek public assistance. And I made the decision through the encouragement of a social worker why are you going to give up your career? You only have 6 months left. Why are you going to do that? Why don't you continue on and graduate? Because to me, you do not look like the welfare type. I said, okay, thank you. And I went ahead, and 6 months later, I said goodbye to public assistance, obtained my nursing license as a registered nurse, and went on. But something shocked me. One day, as I was cleaning my kitchen, remember I'm still in New York. One day, as I was cleaning my kitchen, under the refrigerator, back then we had these old refrigerators that had trays under. So I was cleaning and I pulled it out. I found some drug paraphernalia. Evidently, he was using heroin. My child was 2 years old. And it's difficult to have a conversation with someone who is always high. It is very difficult. New York, if you know anything about the Northeast, snow, high. And back in those days, they had what we call knickers boots, laced up in the front, and the snow was about 4 feet high. And I had to make a choice, and I left my 2-year-old son with his father. And I walked. I cannot even remember how many miles, but it was lots of miles because I had not received my check from the welfare department. The only thing I had in my refrigerator was water because it was free, came with the apartment. But I knew I had to make a decision, and I walked down to the welfare, got my check, took the bus, and went to the grocery store. Now, like I said earlier, I don't know if it's pride, but I was short 1 penny. But I wouldn't do it. I walked. I chose to walk. Fast forward, got home with the groceries. He was still there. My child was fine. And I remember praying, and I said, God, I want you to show me someone who can tell me more about you. I was raised in a God-fearing home. We went to church from the time the doors opened till the doors closed. My mother wanted to be a nun. But here we are. Thank God that did not happen because I would not have been here. And that was my prayer. It did not happen. I continued going to church. I had a little bit of problem confessing to what I saw a man like myself. I needed more. I wanted more. Where was I going to get that more? My mother had no answers. Several years passed by. Husband number 1, which is the one that was addicted to drugs, he had to go back to Panama because now we're talking about the mafia being involved. And I had a little child, remember. He went back to Panama. I went ahead and changed the locks on my doors and everything. He went back to Panama. I worked as a nurse in the operating room. That was one of my first positions as a nurse. And because I always wanted love, acceptance, and also relationship, because I was coming from a broken home. So when my ex-husband, number one, returned to Panama several months later, I resigned my job and returned to Panama. That now was 1978. We lived till I was still married. We stayed together for a little bit. During the transcourse, I had a miscarriage, and Panama Canal, I worked for the military, both Army and Air Force. In the transcourse of my life, remember, looking for love, acceptance, I met a young man. By then, my ex-husband, number one, and I were separated. Met a young man, and long story short, we got divorced. Shortly after, I married husband number two, because I didn't get what I needed or what I wanted from husband number one. But to my surprise, I didn't even realize this. He took me to a home Bible study, and I sat there, and I heard his mother gave an invitation after she read a couple of passages, and I didn't understand none of this because I had never opened a Bible in my life, and I was now 32 years old. But I heard this, and immediately something took place in my heart. And I raised my hand and I said, yes, I want to know him. And my second husband looked at me. He said, do you know what you're doing? Because I used to party, smoke, dance, drink. And he said, do you know what you're doing? And I looked at him and I said, no, I don't. I said, but one thing I do know, I need him. And thereafter, I accepted this lover of what I call my soul, who was gonna change my life, but I did not know. I heard of all these beautiful love letters that he left, but I don't know what love letters. Okay, that's fine. What does all of this mean? I got to learn. One day I picked up the Bible, and that's where the love letters are in. And I looked at husband number two, and I said, would you please show me how to read and understand everything that is in here? And he looked at me, to my surprise, and he said, I don't know much, but I'm going to show you what I know. Fast forward 1985, Carswell Air Force Base transferred me to Fort Worth, and I took off running. He stayed behind, but I took off running because I wanted to know, who is this man that they talk about? I was not interested in dying and going to heaven. I wanted someone to help me now. Show me how to live today. Don't tell me anything about when I die, because in my mindset, when I die, I don't care. I don't care what happens. I want to know now. I took off running. I engaged in so many different Bible study, and I started to find out what's written in these love letters. And I remember hearing John 10:10, which says, the thief cometh to kill, steal, and destroy. But I have come that you may have life. But it wasn't just a regular type of life, a life overflowing. Do you think that happened? It did not. because I did not understand that I had to give all of myself. So now in Texas, Fort Worth, whenever the doors open, I was always at the church. I was there Saturday, Sunday, revival, whenever. But I was missing one ingredient, and that was surrendering. So for 10 years, I ran my life. I was a Christian because it says that once saved, always saved. What do I mean by once saved, always saved? I mean that once you have confessed your sins, and we may think, I didn't think I had any sins. I thought I was okay. Because my thought process back then, sins was something that was done outwardly. Well, I wasn't doing anything outwardly, but my mind was occupied in so many different things. And if I did not allow him to be the center, and who is the he? Jesus. If I did not allow Jesus to be the center of my life, then I was going astray. So for 10 years, I ran my life until one day I cried out and I said, God, I need you to stop me because I don't know how to stop myself. And my boss, now I was working for another company, and my boss gave me a chart and she said, I want you to go visit this particular patient at this particular hospital. You're gonna be there anyway. But because I know the rules, and the rules was I had 24 hours, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tweak this. And I did not. I saw the first patient. The second patient, I figured I can go back tomorrow. It's not a problem. On my way on I-30, coming westbound, there was a gentleman was in his car coming on my right hand side, and I'm listening to Christian song. When I turned to my right, he made a U-turn in front of me. I could not stop on a dime. I broke my right ankle, fractured my sternum, lacerated my liver, and many other injuries. And I recall, that was in 1995, I recall hitting the steering wheel and crying out, God, save me. And I saw smoke coming from under the car. Remember, I'm a nurse. My adrenaline kicked. I pushed myself out to the side of the road. And out of nowhere, there was an Anglo man. And he knelt down at my side. And he looked at me in my eyes. And he said, you are going to be okay. And I said, call my husband. And he disappeared. There was a nurse on the other side of the road came to my assistance. And I stayed. They had to do emergency surgeries, and my kids were still little. And now it was time to come home, and it so happens it was my right foot, so I couldn't drive. I was, okay, you want to become, all right, I'm going to stop you. I was confined to my home. Everyone went to work. My ex-husband now today went to work, and the kids went to school. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I said, who is this person? What that was my moment. That was what I want to call a defining moment. From then on, 1995 to present, I have been chasing after this love of my soul, and I found them. But I thought I was going to find them in just one way. But the more I open the love letters, I encounter him in so many different facets that I label him. And I said, you're like a diamond. A diamond that when I turn one way, I see you one way. I turn another way, I see you another way. And each time I keep seeing you. And he gave me a word. Romans 8:28. For all things work together for the good of those who are called and love the Lord, and you're called on purpose. But he did not finish with that. I had to go further down, because as it goes down, 29, 30, and 31 says, I'm conforming you to my image. Oh, good grief. Then I began to understand. Would I say that life has been easy? No. But now I'm not walking by myself. He's told me I would never leave you nor forsake you. I would always be with you. I have been divorced now 12 years. I've lost a son in 2010. I purchased a home, and I know what it is to stand on the love letters, the letters that he's given me to live my life. Now, let me ask a question. You've heard my story, and some of you in the audience may have similar stories. You may have strayed away from God. You may have strayed away from that relationship. You may have been brought up in a Christian home. That is fine. The question is, where are you today? Where are you today? Where is your relationship? Is it cold, medium? What is it? I want the words that came out of my mouth for you to know that it's never too late. His hand is always extended, waiting on you to turn around and say, forgive me. I want to be back home. Remember, I started out saying, empty well, empty heart. Oh no, full well, full heart. And look at the beauty. My dad, the one that abandoned me at the side of the road, our relationship was restored, and he passed away in 2013. So tell me, I have gotten all sides, good sides of the road. Thank you.
Good job.